Good morning, everyone. Yes, so new batch, huh? How many classes done? 5 classes done. बहुत पढ़ लिया यार इतने दिनों में. अभी तो शुरू हुआ था कभी. हाँ, फर्स्ट को 5 क्लासेस पढ़ ली. ठीक है. I hope at least you have faced Ravindran sir once, which is the polity class. Any other polity classes by now? No other? Great. ठीक है. ठीक है. So we'll start the class, but before that, tell me something. How many of you are right now in your graduation years? In college itself, कितने लोग हैं? Okay. ठीक है. Final year, I believe. Second year or final year? Second year or final year, right? Great, great, great. How many of you have prepared at least something before coming to Vajiram? Any idea about the exam? अरे पूछूंगा कुछ नहीं, ऐसे ही पूछ रहा हूं बस, just to understand you people. ठीक है. So, okay, ठीक है. चलो, we'll try to make it a interactive session so that we both learn in the process. I'll also learn something, you'll also learn something, right? With that, we'll start the class. And my name is Samar. I'll be taking Indian polity, a part of Indian polity, you know. Every subject is divided into a few teachers based on the expertise and experience. So, I'll be teaching you a fundamental part of Indian polity. Majorly, we'll start with the idea of constitution, different type of constitution, those things. And we'll take it to the philosophy of constitution, which is there in the preamble. We'll also read a little about union, the territory, the country, the nation, the people who live in this nation, citizens, etc. And then we'll meet again after a short break to talk about something very, very important, which is elections. But those are days which are going to be like after maybe 4 or 5 months, so you don't need to worry about it. Because it is the first class, is your class going to be a continuation of Ravindran sir class or separately? None of the classes will be continuation of something that a teacher is teaching. Getting the point? Every teacher has got his or her own part. They will deal with that class, that part. So be attentive on their part. At the end of the day, everything will connect. And that is the beauty of UPSC. Everything gets connected at the end of the day. Okay? So keep your eyes and your minds open to the class itself so that you understand things. Okay? Because it is the first class itself. So do we need to write it on a separate notebook? ऐसे आइंस्टाइन वाले सवाल क्लास के एंड में पूछेंगे. अरे मेंटेन योर ओन नोट्स. ठीक है. ऑल ऑफ यू ट्राई टू मेंटेन ब्लैंक शीट. Please avoid writing on rolling papers. These are basic things you should understand. Why? Because the exam itself will happen on blank sheets. If you have a habit of writing it on rolling papers, then when you go to the main exam, your answer will start from Gujarat and will reach China. Getting it? So make sure that you are using blank sheet from day one itself, number one. Number two, prefer writing in free A4 size sheets. Register is also fine, but writing on free A4 size papers is also good. That's because you should have a single note. You should not have 10 notes for one subject. You should always have a single note. So with preparation, you will need to add on a few things. With more and more of, what do you say, classes, you need to consolidate things. That is possible when you have free notes. You can always add on things or cut down things or add on a piece of article, something like that. You can always do it, right? Try to make notes of almost everything that you come across in the class, not only polity, any other thing. Let me tell you, whatever will be taught to you here, it is of the most or utmost importance when it comes to the UPSC exam itself. Not necessarily all of you will connect with all the subject equally. You getting this point? You might find polity interesting or someone might find it very, very boring. But end of the day, all have to write polity. All have to qualify polity. So make sure you make the subject interesting by understanding it. Generally, all the subjects are interesting. Generally. Specifically, what happens is we are unable to understand some subjects, so they become difficult or tough for us. So try to make it more and more understanding. Interesting उसका logical extension है. Getting the point? Apart from that, do make notes, because end of the day, when you'll be done with your classes, or at least when you go home back, you should have something to revise, and that is your class notes. That is your 1-point solution for almost everything of UPSC. So make sure you make notes. Now, when it comes to notes, different teachers will give you different type of notes. Somebody may dictate you. Somebody might not dictate you and maybe give you a handout. Somebody might give you a handout and also dictate you. So I'll come in the third category. I'll give you some handout also for each of the classes, and I'll dictate also some of the important things. So that comprehensively, my idea is very simple. You don't need to go and trust on any other book. So that whatever is important from the exam perspective, we cover everything in the class itself. Getting the point? Now, since it is the first class, let me tell you about resources, because that is one thing that everyone is going to think about. Like from where we are going to read the part. As far as resources are concerned, there are 3 resources for the part that I'll be teaching. The first one is the handout plus the class notes, whatever we are making it in the class. I may not dictate you everything that I am teaching you. That is not possible humanly. At the same time, it is not possible for you also to take down everything that I am saying, because the pace will be high here. Just make sure that whatever I am writing over there in that board is there in your notebook. Because of 2 things. Number 1, when you go back home, you can look at the things and you can remember what you absorbed in the class. Number 1. And number 2, the kind of notes that I'll try to train you over here is also called as thematic notes making, which means you don't need to write everything. You have to write indicative things. Then only you can revise them again and again and again before the exam. Getting the point? You will learn it in due course of time, but initially to start with, just copy what I am doing on the board itself. With time, you will understand it. Getting the point? So the first thing is the handouts that I am providing you along with the class notes. The second thing would be standard book. As far as standard book of polity is concerned, for my part, it will be yellow book alone. I don't want you to waste your time in any of the books. Especially, you'll come across a book called as Lakshmikant, right? You read it. I have no opposition to the book. My only point is that book is a book made for prelims exam. You'll understand maybe in 2-3 months while reading more and more of polity that the book is not a bad book, but the book is aimed to a particular exam, which is the prelims exam. But then prelim is not the final exam. So the major problem which students face after clearing the prelim exam is how do we manage the content of polity from the main exam perspective. Getting it? So make sure that you are looking at a resource which is equally good for both prelims as well as main exam, so that you don't have to look at 2 or 3 or 4 books to cover the same chapters. At the same time, the things that we will discuss in the class will majorly be to an exhaustive limit, so even none of the book will actually cover it to an extent. So be attentive in the class itself. However, your reference point would be the yellow book if you want to go home back and read, and you should read. You should read at least 1 standard book for each of the subjects and not more than 2 books for each of the subject. Never ever go to 3, 4, 5, 10 books. That is not UPSC. Read 1 book 10 times than reading 10 books a single time. Getting the point? More revision means more confidence. Okay. And the third and the most important thing is the newspaper. Once and for all, let me tell you one statement. There is no UPSC preparation without reading newspaper. I don't care which Telegram channel, which YouTube or Instagram handle you are looking at. None of the thing would work out to be a substitution for newspaper. There is nothing, absolutely nothing, which can replace newspaper. It might take a good amount of time to start with. It might consume even 3 hours for you to read a newspaper and then make relevant notes out of it. But believe the process, with time, it will be the most beneficial of things. Nothing works out like that of newspaper. So please read newspaper every day, even if it is taking a good chunk of your time. It doesn't matter. With time, it will pay off. See, if you don't do it today thinking that it is consuming a lot of time, after 6 months you have to do it, or after a year you have to do it, or maybe after 2 years you have to do it. Any day you will start, it will be a 0 day for you. It is going to take the same 3 hours time, those initial days. So rather than rectifying something after 6 months or a year or 2, take that chance today, so that all of you fall into your respective discipline of covering a newspaper in 1 to 1.5 hours. That should be your daily routine. You miss out anything, I don't care. Please do not miss out newspaper. There is no UPSC preparation without newspaper. And the magazines those are given to you are not substitution of newspaper. They are complementary to newspaper. You cannot revise newspaper of last 30 days, but you can always read a magazine published for the last month, isn't it? At the same time, newspaper would have discrete information, whereas the magazine would have all the information at one place. In newspaper, not necessarily the background of every event will be covered, but in magazine, essentially it will be covered. So you see, both of them are complementary to each other. Only when you read newspaper, the magazines will make sense to you. The UPSC pattern will make sense to you. The UPSC pattern is completely changing. Since 2017-18, we can see a huge amount of change in the kinds of questions they are asking in the main exam, and specifically in the prelims exam post 2018. That fine line of difference which was there earlier, that this is something to be prepared for prelims and that is something to be prepared for mains, has been completely dissolved out. Getting the point? It's no more there. You have to study almost everything except a few things which are very, very explicit, like GS paper 4, ethics, integrity and aptitude. It's not a format of question or your syllabus for prelims exam. It is completely exclusively for mains exam. However, there is no such difference as far as the first 3 papers are concerned, and hence your preparation should be integrated preparation. None of you can qualify the exam if you are planning to qualify the prelim exam and then think about main exam. There is nothing like prelim preparation and mains preparation. Everything is about pre-cum mains preparation. We direct our studies in a different way when we come for the main prelim exam, and we change it to a different pattern when we go for the main exam. Getting the point? That you will understand with time. However, you should understand that these are the 3 most important resources for your GS paper 2, or specifically my section that I'll be teaching you. Is it clear to all of you? अभी तो बोला बेटा, तभी तो 3 घंटा लगेगा, वरना क्या पढ़ोगे आप जो 3 घंटा लगेगा? With time you will understand what are the things to be left in newspaper also. That you will understand with time. You start making it, you will understand what are the things that you should not make notes of. Okay, I will help you on that. Clear to all of you? Huh? Okay. Any other doubt till here? Not necessarily. Peripheral things we can discuss outside the class also. That sir, I am having this problem or that problem. Sir, how to do this or how to do that? That is a subjective question. As far as uniformity is concerned, these are the 3 places of resources for you. Understood? Huh? On that note, let me tell you something. I encourage all of you to ask questions. As many questions as you can ask. But then, understand one thing, that most of the questions that you will be asking, is something that I already know. Because of experience, I know which part can be questioned. So most part of the questions that you might ask will actually be covered in the due course of the lecture itself. So please provide me the time or the leisure to finish off the topic. Once I'm done with the topic, ask me the question, there won't be an issue. Understood? but I'll make sure that we are not leaving any stone unturned. We are taking care of it. Clear to all of you? With that, we'll start the class. Just one point to all of you. Please do not disturb the class. If you talk among yourself and I see it, I will kick you out of the class. I don't care what happens after that, but you are never ever entering my classes. You want to enjoy the class? Enjoy them. Anyways, it is Indian polity, we will enjoy it. You want to ask questions, get indulged into debate, do it. But do it in a civilized manner. Do not kill the time of a person who is sitting beside you and is a more serious candidate than you. You can be useless, your neighbor cannot be. If you want to waste the time, go out, waste and come back. Getting it? Because a strict होना पड़ता है. ठीक है? So we'll start our subject, which is polity or Indian polity, right? Is yellow book sufficient for mains? अगर sufficient नहीं है तो क्यों print करके दे रहे हैं बेटा? नहीं? हाँ? When to start making newspaper note? Today. आज का न्यूज़पेपर पढ़ा है तो आज बनाएंगे. Sir, what about PYQs? PYQ stand for previous year question. You can only answer previous year question when you have something to learn today. So learn today, after that we will see PYQs. Do we have to read full newspaper or some pages? See, every newspaper has got two parts. Did Ravindran sir tell you this? Okay. Every newspaper, he will tell you in the classes. Every newspaper has got two parts. One is called as news reporting, the other is called as news analysis. News reporting means पिछले 24 घंटे में क्या हुआ है, कौन मरा, कौन भाग गया, कौन जिंदा है. That is news reporting. That is not important for us. What is important for us is news analysis. If a topic is of some importance, it will be discussed, deliberated, it will be published in editorial, in articles, and again talks will be devised over it. That is something that you need to understand. Do you need to make note of then how many people are dying in Hamas attack? No, you need to make a note on what is happening between Israel and Hamas. That is what something you should learn with experience, and I should not tell you that. Getting the point? You should make those mistakes. There are some mistakes that you have to make in order to understand what not has to be done. Getting the point? For example, many of you will not get this point that you have to take one source for preparation. Many students will come here to become district collector, but in 2 years, they will all become data collectors. जिधर जो दिखा उसको डाउनलोड कर रहे हैं, जो फोटोकॉपी शॉप में दिखा उसको खरीद के लेके घर जा रहे हैं. It is of no use. Unless and until you cannot read something and revise it multiple times, please do not touch that resource. Simple rule in life. UPSC is as such not a difficult exam. Let me tell you that very frankly in the first class itself. It's an organized exam. It is very, very well organized. If you do your preparation in an organized manner, in a disciplined manner, take my words, no one can displace you. And I'm not telling you to encourage you. I'm a very rational person telling you with logic. See, every year there are a few candidates who will qualify this exam every time. Every time they'll qualify it, be it whatever rank they secure. Why? Have they got leaked questions? No, they have understood the pattern of the exam. It's an organized exam. Please organize your preparation. Getting the point? ठीक है, पढ़ाई कर ले. Polity. Okay. What do you mean by polity? Anyone? And I'm not asking what is politics. We are Indians, so best at politics. I'm not asking you what is politics. Politics, let me clear out. It is struggle for power. Politics. We are not discussing politics. We are discussing polity. What is polity?
Redistribution of resources in the society.
हाँ.
A predefined set of rules and values.
हाँ, कहाँ से पढ़े आप? You have a friend who is already a student of Vajiram. So,
I have previously gone through the
theme of the subject, you got it. Okay, ठीक है. What is polity? Balance between? Balance between power and justice and through laws and regulation. Okay, good. Anything else?
Polity is a system. Polity is a system of organizations, particularly for governance.
For governance. And what is governance, sir? Governance is to rule. Nahi. Contract between state and subject. Nahi, Suman, that is social contract theory. Application of constitution, absolutely yes, but we need to make it more clear. Civil organized system for running a society, form of civil government, yes. Anything else? Yes. You have to raise your hand. Organized set of rules and regulations. Okay. Study of government institution. So non-government institution doesn't come under polity. So if there is no state, there is no polity? Getting the question? Okay. अरे एक एक करके बहुत टाइम है. None of my classes will be 2.5 hours. Don't worry. Very good. And who should govern it? And what should be the philosophy of the society be working? What should be the philosophy? Group of different institutions helping in state functioning. That's what I'm asking you. If state is not there, isn't polity is there? Collective aspirations. Okay. Anything else? Anyone? Yes. Form of government. So if government is not there, there is no polity. No polity was there during the monarchy because no government was there. King was only ruling. No polity was there. Administration of a community or a... What is administration? Act of governance is administration. Then what is governance? Act of administration is governance. Physics क्या है? Sir, physical state. और क्या है? हाँ. Rules and regulation. ठीक है. Okay. चलो. हाँ बोलो जल्दी जल्दी. ठीक है. Set of rules and regulation. Anybody else? Yes. Very good. Ability to mobilize resources. Very good statement. Just सुनो. None of you are wrong, but none of you are right also. What all of you are trying to tell me is feature of a polity. And my question was very simple. What is polity? नहीं हो गया. अभी रुकते हैं. दूसरा वाला आप बताना ठीक है. So otherwise we'll not stop with the class itself. See, first thing is that no one is ever going to ask you a question in UPSC at least that write down what do you understand by polity. But as students of Indian polity, we should understand what is polity. First thing. Second thing, when I ask you about something, remember something, you have to define something in the simplest possible term. You telling me rules and regulation or laws or basic rules, whatever it is not wrong. But then again, it is not a simplified version. For example, somebody said governance. I asked what is governance? Somebody said administration. They themselves are having their own definition. Getting the point? Unless and until you don't understand something that you can explain it to a layman, it means you have not understood it. When you become a district collector, do you think everyone who enters your office is a person who is well educated? And then let's suppose a vegetable vendor enters your cabin and then says, sir, I have come to the understanding that you people work for polity. Sir, what is polity? And start giving him all these high word filled definitions. Is it working? The simple point is, if you cannot define something in the simplest of terms, it means you yourself have not understood it. And if you will not understand something, then you can always memorize that thing, but you will never understand the thing. And then you will lose interest in that particular thing. So it is important that you understand each of the basic concept with the slightest of simplest terms. So when I say what is polity, then remember polity is the art of who gets what, when, and where. So what is polity? Polity is the art of who gets what, when, and where. So basically, we are talking about somebody or someone getting something at a certain point of time, at a certain location or availability. Right? That's what we are looking for. That's we are talking about. That what is polity? It is the art of who gets what, when, and where. When I say what, when, and where, what is it? Nothing but resources, isn't it? And those resources can be tangible as well as intangible resources. Tangible, the one that you can touch and feel, like infrastructure, like the Delhi metro you saw. Getting the point? Tangible. And then intangible resources that you cannot touch, but yet you can feel it, like equality, like justice, like fraternity, like liberty. You can't touch them, but yet those are also resources. Now, those are to be redistributed in the society. So, what is polity? Polity is the art of resource redistribution. Is the art of resource redistribution. So, not only mobilization, mobilization is just a part of it. It is rather one step ahead from mobilization. It is resource redistribution, right? And when we say resource redistribution is the idea behind polity, these resources can only be redistributed by involvement of institutions. Can it be done by just individuals? No individual, no matter how much strong, how much wealthy, he or she cannot be involved completely in the idea of resource redistribution. You definitely need institutions for it. And when you need institutions, sometimes those institutions will be formal or governmental institution, and sometimes those institutions would be informal or non-governmental institution. Not necessarily every institution is a formal institution. For example, all of you or us witnessed COVID. In COVID, you also know the health crisis we had in India, and the vaccines were to be distributed throughout, and then awareness was also to be provided all about. Was it only done by government? No, there was a great amount of role played by these civil society organization or NGOs or pressure group or interest group also. So you see, that is also resource redistribution that is being done by institution, sometime formal, sometime informal. Definitely formal are more powerful. That's because they come with the force of government. Anyways, you need the collaboration and cooperation and coordination of the formal as well as the informal institutions in order to redistribute the resource. If that is the case, then don't you think the basic rule of the game should be fixed? Otherwise, what will happen is the one who is more powerful will always sustain itself at the cost of the less powerful. If they have to cooperate, if they have to associate, if they have to coordinate, don't you think a set of laws, rules, regulations, etc. should be predefined to them? Otherwise, the one who is more powerful will only sustain. The one which is not that powerful will wither away, which means you need a basic set of laws for their interaction, isn't it? I'm sure you are getting that where I am indicating it to. Basic set of laws. Now, this is about polity. When you talk about Indian polity, you are talking about resource redistribution in India to be done by institutions in India, both formal and informal institution in India. So this basic set of laws is for India. And what is the basic set of law for India? What it is called? It is the constitution of the country. Okay? It is the constitution of the country, which is the basic set of laws. for resource redistribution in the country. Basic set of laws means these are the most fundamental thing. There is nothing over and above it. It is the most fundamental thing. That basic set of laws, that legal document is what is called as constitution, right? Sir must have told you about constitution. Ravindran sir must have told you about constitution. Okay, then help me identify what do you understand by a constitution. Can you tell me about Constitution of India? What is the basic idea behind Constitution of India? It is the supreme law of the land. Anything else? It is organic law of the land. Very nice. Anything else? It provides ideal and aspiration. So it is a aspirational document, right? It's a aspirational document. Anything else? And that is fine. Anything other than this? It has a special legal sanctity, fine. That is again utility of it. It is the basic or the fundamental law of the land. This is the idea, majorly the idea behind Indian Constitution, right? This much you know? Okay. Let me tell you something. The meaning of all of these terms that you see, supreme, basic, fundamental, organic or aspirational, is all different. It is not the same. Calling the Constitution as the fundamental law is completely different from calling the Constitution organic law. Getting the point? And so is aspirational and so is supreme. We'll try to understand each one of them, but this is the idea behind Constitution of India. But then this Constitution is nothing but a legal document. So at the end of the day, it is a law. Okay. Any one of you, can you tell me what is a law? We are so much discussing about laws. All of you are telling me rules, regulation, law for everything. So here also we have got law, law, law. So what exactly is a law? Law is suit of rules and regulation. And what is rules and regulation? Set of laws is rules and regulation. Command of sovereign. Achha. Yes, last. It is a set of instructions. Then regulations are a set of instructions, right? What is law? Can you tell me? See, what I'm all trying to do, let me tell you something, is that trying to pull you out of your bookish language. That's why all of you are telling me, Jojo rat ke aaye ho. And that's why I'm avoiding, deliberately, intentionally, avoiding those legalistic terms. Understand the things. Again, let me repeat you. Understand the things, you'll find it interesting. Yes, sir. Tell me. Order of? Order of? Order of, I'm not getting the last one. Anything. I say break the glasses, it becomes a law. I'm giving an order, break it. Sanction, चलो आधे लोग बोलते हैं फिर sanction मिल जाएगा तोड़ने का. That is, sanction means that only. Getting the point? Good number of people are saying it. Yes. Governs the state. Remember something, not necessarily you always had a state, right? In the polity also you did the mistake. You're telling me state, but then I told you it is the art of who gets what, when and where. Is it concerning any state? This is applicable to your family also. Inside your family also polity is going on, isn't it? Huh? But not politics, right? So, what is law? Yes, sir. Okay, that is constitution. What is a law? Leave constitution. अरे निकलो रूल से बाहर. बेटा कितना रूल बोलेंगे? हाँ. Yes, tell me. रूल्स वर्ड बिना यूज करे बताना है. रूल्स, रेगुलेशन, लॉज, ये तीन वर्ड यूज नहीं करना है और बताना है. यस सर. अरे एक सेकेंड. हाँ. When we are How? So the instrument, very good. That is fine. But then that instrument majorly is constitution, isn't it? It is constitution only which instrumentalizes the Indian polity. That's why we said basic set of laws from India, for India. Very good. It tells you what to do and what not to do in a society. What to do and not to do is a set of what we say approved and disapproved values. बेटा समथिंग समथिंग में कुछ नहीं होगा. बेटा कोड कभी लॉ हो ही नहीं सकता है, मैं ही पढ़ाऊंगा आपको. ठीक है. लॉज आर कलेक्टिव कॉन्शियंस ऑफ अ सोसाइटी. ठीक है. रूल्स और रेगुलेशन से बाहर निकलो, नहीं तो मायोपिक सोचोगे. ठीक है. यस खुशी, राइट. व्हाट पीपल शुड डू एंड व्हाट पीपल शुड नॉट डू, right? And that is what is collective conscience of a society. So what are laws? Collective conscience of a society are called as laws. Collective conscience. What is conscience? The inner voice is conscience. We all have an inner voice. When we do something wrong, something comes from within. अरे ये तो गलत हो गया, right? When we do something, not introspect. When we do something right, there is a happiness from within that yes, I have done something good. What is that approval? That this is something right or that is something wrong. It is nothing but your value system. You approve for things which you accept in your value system. You disapprove of things that you do not accept in your value system. So what is that inner nudge or that inner voice, conscience? It is nothing but your value system. Now we as a society, we have our own value system. As individuals, we have our own value system. But as a society, we have some common value system. Isn't it? Not necessarily whatever is my value system is same with his value system or with her value system or with her or with her. But there would be a few things that we all five will agree to. For example, respecting the elders. We all five will agree to it. Not killing an animal for your enjoyment, we all five will agree to it. So there are certain value system that we all five will agree to it, irrespective of the differences in our individual value system. Now those value system which are collectively governing the society are called as laws. Understood? Now there are different ways of making law because there are different type of laws in a society. Getting it? For example, there are a set of laws which are written in a book called as constitution, and hence they are called as constitutional laws. Why? Because they are written inside a book and that book has got special legal sanctity. Those laws are called as constitutional laws. What they are representing? Collective conscience of the society. But then legally, they are pedestally, they are placed very high. Why? Because Constitution में लिखा है. Similarly, there are laws which are passed by the legislature in a country. For example, in India, you have got legislature at both the central level as well as the state level. You have got parliament at the central level. You have got the state legislative assembly and in some state even council. Right? Now those laws which are made by these legislature are called as statutes or ordinary laws. What they are called? Statutes or ordinary laws. They are made by ordinary legislature. See, constitution is not ordinary, it is special. So that's why those are called as constitutional laws. Whereas these are called as statute or ordinary law. Many a time when we say legislation, this is what we are indicating to. In India, even court's judgment is also having the force of law. Whatever the Supreme Court or the High Court says, it is also having the force of law. That judgment is as good as the law itself. So even those are laws. Rules and regulation, you people are telling me from that time, those are also kind of laws. Whatever the legislature makes, it is a big skeleton of laws. Legislature are not one who are involved in day-to-day governance. Who are involved? Executives are involved. So the nitty-gritty of this law is fixed by executive in the form of rules and regulations. These are also type of laws. For example, ordinances you will read. That is the power of the executive to make laws. The president or the governor in some extraordinary situations in India can make laws. Those ordinances, though they are act of the executive, are still also recognized as laws. In India, even customs and conventions are also regarded as a law. If there is a tribal society and they have a convention, a cultural practice that they have been practicing since generation, then that custom is also recognized as a law. So in any country, there can be different kind of laws, different type of laws. The major type being those of the constitutional law, the statute, the court's judgment, the rules and regulation, the ordinances, etc. So on and so forth. Getting the point? Huh? This is what is law. This is what is law. And what all of these are telling us? Nothing but the collective conscience of the society. What the society largely approves or what the society does not approve. For example, there was a point of time when we were looking at sati from an acceptable point of view. In this country only sati was practiced. But today, do you think we have the same value system? Will you today make a law in order to enforce sati? No, you will not. Why? Because your value system has changed. So with the changing value system, the conscience will also change, and so laws also change with time. Not necessarily what laws were there at one point of time will remain same at another point of time also, because laws are collective conscience. Conscience is value system, and value system changes with time. Isn't your value system changing with time? Think about it. Getting the point? This is laws. Yes. Is a question or you are reaffirming? It's a value-based document. ठीक है? Yes. बेटा only life में कुछ भी नहीं होता है.
So when we see that customs and conventions are also a part of the law, so for example, a tribal community can have.
We'll come to it. Let the teacher teach. मैं पढ़ के आया हूँ कल रात को अच्छे से. ठीक है? हाँ जी. Let's not go into the debate of personal laws. Yes, they are kind of personal laws only because they are into a small community itself. ठीक है? इसलिए पर्सनल लॉ अभी आप बहुत नहीं समझोगे जब तक आप डीपीएस पे नहीं पहुंचोगे. नो पॉइंट ऑफ कंफ्यूजिंग. यस. The statute or ordinary law, any law which is made by legislature, either parliament or at the state level also you have legislature. The laws which are made by these legislative bodies are called as ordinary law or statute or legislation. और क्या है? हाँ, किधर किधर है? कौन है? हाँ, सुनो, चुप चुप, जो पढ़ा रहा हूं वो सुनो. That is because all the things will come with time. If you know about voting doesn't mean everyone know about voting. So no point of impressing others also. सब जान जाएंगे 2 क्लास में, हो सकता है आपसे ज्यादा जान जाएं, फिर दिक्कत हो जाएगी. पहला. दूसरा, please have some patience. I know what all things might come. That's why I told you in the introduction itself, please give me the time to teach the topic itself. Whatever things you are asking is already there in the discussion itself. Fine. If there is any problem or doubt over here, please do let me. Yes. Beta, what are bylaws? Can you please explain? Bylaws are laws by legislature. लेसर लेजिस्लेचर, क्या है लेसर लेजिस्लेचर? That is lesser legislature. So please define me now what is lesser legislature. That is example. Yes. Ah.
Societies, flats, apartments are also collective consequences. We make some kind of, so if we break those rules, are we obligated by the bill of law?
That depends on what kind of a alignment that particular rule and regulation has with that of the laws. That depends. Getting the point? Some apartment wala will tell you cannot keep a dog here. That is rules and regulation for that particular apartment for majority of the stakeholders who have said yes to it or no to it. You can drag them if you think that that is not working out for you. Take it to the court of law. No one is stopping you for that. It is also, yeah, that depends. But they cannot be illegal. You'll read about something called as justiciability and enforceability. There you will understand this. ठीक है? हाँ, जी. फिर से बोलना बेटा. Are non-statutory laws. Obviously that is what is written. Otherwise rules and regulations statute के अंदर लिखते. वहां पे लिखा है? नहीं लिखा है, अलग लिखा है. तो definitely those are non-statutory. ठीक है? Yes. हाँ. बेटा ऑर्डिनेंसेस एक चैप्टर है. ऑर्डिनेंसेस इज द पावर गिवन टू प्रेसिडेंट और गवर्नर that if there is any extraordinary situation they can make some laws. Power given to executive. Getting it? I'll teach you again today only. What is the other one? Difference between ordinance and rules and regulation. Rules and regulation are detailing of it. I just told you that the legislature is not working 24/7. The executive is working 24/7. So they might form a big skeleton of a law, but then the nitty-gritty, the detailing of it is put forth by the executive many a time who are working on the grassroots level. Those nitty-gritties are what is called as rules and regulations. Okay. See, let me tell you something. None of the answer that I gave you, I added it at least one word extra to it. I just repeated what I told you already. Can you observe that? Which means you need to be attentive in the class and don't kill the time. I did not repeat one single extra word to tell you or bring in more clarity. Is it making sense to all of you what I'm trying to say? If you be attentive, it is covered already. Any other doubt anyone has? Yes. Collective conscience. Suppose we are here 100 people. ठीक है? And 100 people collectively we decide that sati should be legal in India. Which means for majority of people sitting over with the 100 people are having a value system which says sati should be there in India. So sati becomes a law. But then if majority of the people say no, there should be equality between both the genders and sati should not be there, it is not right, then it will become a law. Prohibition of sati will become a law. That is collective conscience. What is conscience? Value system. When do you approve or disapprove a thing? When your value system allows for the thing or it rejects the thing. Getting the point? अब समझ आया? ठीक है, ठीक है. We'll go step by step. हाँ, हाँ. Conscience with? No, not at all. Okay, in ethics you will read something called as rules, regulation, laws and conscience. It is given in a direction. Getting the point? You will understand this. That even at a place laws will stop. You cannot have laws for everything, or laws cannot give you the solution for everything. So then comes your value system. Not necessarily because a law is there, so you do it. Someone asked like in an apartment, who was that? That apartment question, yes. So whatever is happening in an apartment, human beings are living over there, right? So not necessarily because you will be caught, you should not break the signal. You should not break the signal because it is good for you as well as the other traveler over there. Getting the point? So it is not only enforceability which makes the law. That you will understand when ethics classes are introduced to you. Is it clear till here? हाँ बेटा बोल. कुछ डेफिनेशन नहीं है, भूल जाओ. अरे कुछ नहीं है, डिटेलिंग है लॉज का. नहीं सुन रहा मैं. और इज इट डन? नहीं सुन रहा मैं. और कलेक्टिव कॉन्शियंस समझ में आया सबको? ठीक है. विच टेक्स अस टू डिफरेंट काइंड ऑफ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. You be there with me in the class. If you are not getting anything, I'll stay back after the class for 2 hours. You ask me all the doubts. You're repeating the same thing and not listening what I'm telling you while I'm telling you those. Getting the point? Listen it in the class. I think I'm not fast enough. I don't think I'm fast. कहीं पे fast हो रहा हूँ तो बता देना, ठीक है? Which takes us to different kind of constitutions, which is classification of constitutions. Around the globe, political scientists or political thinkers, they have divided constitutions into different types based on certain parameters. Based on certain parameters, constitutions are divided or classified into different types. And the first classification is the classification or division between constitution named as written constitution and unwritten constitution. Written constitution and unwritten constitution. What is the basic difference between written and unwritten constitution? There is a term called as codification. There is a single difference, and that single difference, or rather the parameter based on which the difference is there, is called as codification. What is codification? The idea of giving code to particular thing is codification. Coding something like putting things into different bags and then naming each of the bag is codifying the bags. This is only codification. Getting the point? Huh? So in a written constitution, you will see that laws are made or written and then they are codified into different compartments. For example, we just understood that there are different kind or types of laws in a country. Now when all of these laws are placed into different buckets, for example, let's suppose there is a bucket or a box called as constitutional laws. So only those laws which are written in constitution will be put here. Where? Inside the constitution. Suppose there is another bucket which is ordinary laws. Those laws which are made by legislature are put in here. Getting the point? You can very well see there is a demarcation between constitutional law and ordinary law. Similarly, all the ordinances which are made by the executive are put here. There is a marked difference between ordinary law and ordinances. And similarly, rules and regulations will be put in some other box. And then customs and conventions, then court's judgment, and so on and so forth. So in this kind of a constitution, we will see that there are laws which are made and then the laws are codified or put into specific buckets and are named. This is the idea behind written constitution. Then what is there in unwritten constitution? Remember one thing, unwritten does not mean that they are not written. They are also written, verb, they are also written, they are also made. The only difference is you see a codification here, a logical segregation here, but here you will see that this country will also have different kind of laws like those of constitutional law or ordinary law or ordinances or court judgment or whatever it is. The only difference is that there won't be any kind of a segregation, which means all of the laws will be put in just one bucket. Getting the point? Think about it. Suppose there are two students who are making class notes here, attend everyday class and then make notes in free A4 size paper. One goes back and back at home in his room, he has got 4 files: GS1, GS2, GS3, GS4. Today is polity class, so he'll go home back, will open GS2 file. Therein, in the envelope that he has got for GS2 polity, he is going to insert those notes. And like that, tomorrow let's suppose science and tech class, day after tomorrow let's suppose ethics class, he takes the note, go home back, and then put them into their relevant files. Codification. And then suppose she also comes for all the classes, takes all the notes, but then when she goes home back, there is a big box called as UPSC notes. What she does? Write down everything like he is writing. Go home back, but then dump everything inside that box. Suppose after 6 months, I tell both of them, can you get me first class ka note when I taught you written and unwritten constitution? Who will be able to get it faster? The one who organized it. Who will be able to isolate it easily? The one who codified. This is the difference between written constitution and unwritten constitution. Remember, here also laws are written. It is not that laws are verbal. Here also laws are written. The only difference is there it is codified, here it is not codified, which means here if I ask you, show me where constitutional laws are, can you show me? If I ask you, show me where ordinances are there, can you show me? But there if I ask you where it is constitutional law, you can show me very well. If I ask you where are ordinances or custom or convention, you can very well show me. Isn't it? So here you cannot show me anything, rather everything is at an equal base. Now, we just understood in case of Constitution of India that it is the supreme law of the land or the fundamental or the basic law of the land. If you look at this particular setting of a written constitution, India is also having a written constitution, right? So the basic example that we see here is that of United States of America and that of UK. But then in India also we are having written constitution. So when we say that the constitutional law or the constitution is the supreme law of the land, it means that this law is placed at the highest pedestal of legality, which means none of the other laws that you see are legally placed at that value what the constitution has been placed at, which simply means that none of the other laws can challenge the constitution. When you say that is supreme, what does it mean? It is placed at a pedestal which is legally at a superior position to any other law. And how do you attain that supremacy? While you understand that none of the law can challenge the constitution, which means that every law has to be in alignment with the constitution. Whatever the constitution says, it should be there in other law. If any other laws says anything which goes against what the constitution says, then constitution being supreme law, the other law is declared as null and void, which means constitution is the fundamental law. Getting the point? You cannot betray or violate the constitution. For example, in the Constitution of India, there is an article, Article 21, which talks about a dignified life, that all of us has a dignified life, which means state has a duty to protect our life. Getting it? That is what is given in Article 21 of the Constitution. You will read it in detail in Fundamental Rights chapter. Suppose, hypothetically, there is a tribal society somewhere in central India or northeast India, that is within India. Suppose in that tribal society, they have a custom of human sacrifice, what is also called as Bali. Suppose they have a custom of human sacrifice, which means killing a human being. Now, killing a human being is exactly opposite of protecting the life of a human being. But then, custom in India is also law. So one law says that you can take the life of a human being, whereas another law says you have to protect the life of a human being. So as far as life is concerned, there are two laws which are saying two things. One is saying life can be taken away. The other is saying life has to be protected, which means there is a confrontation between constitution and custom. Constitution says protect, custom says kill. What should remain back? Constitution. So the custom will be declared as null and void. Understood? This is the meaning of calling the constitution as the fundamental law of the land, which means every law in the country has to subscribe to the idea, or has to be in alignment, or has to be in conformity to what the constitution says, which means no one can violate constitution. And that is where we say that constitution is the supreme law of the land. Getting the point? So more or less, supreme and fundamental can be derived from each other. Supreme is positioning, fundamental is none of the other law can challenge the constitution. Is it clear? Clear to all of you? Which means that this set of laws are special laws, isn't it? That's why only they are treated so specially. They are supreme. Not everything is supreme. They are fundamental. Not everything is fundamental. They are special laws. But look at here. Can you tell me where constitutional laws are? Can you tell me where ordinances are? Can you tell me where ordinary laws are? You cannot identify anything. So can you tell me which set of laws here are special laws? You cannot say it. Which means when nothing is special, then what it becomes? If not special, then? So remember, in an unwritten constitution, everything is an ordinary law. Why? Because there is nothing called as a special set of laws, like you can identify in the case of a written constitution. There is nothing special. Everything is ordinary. Now tell me something. If there is a person who is special, what kind of treatment do we give to the person? Special or ordinary? Special people need special treatment. So if I have to treat the constitution, can I treat it ordinarily? No, I have to treat it specially, which means if I have to make any change to the constitution, my process should be a special process. And tell me by your common sense, special things are difficult things or easy things? Difficult things. So definitely amending the constitution here would be difficult. Whereas here you see, is there anything special? No, rather everything is ordinary. And ordinary things what kind of treatment? Ordinary treatment. So if I have to make any change to this particular constitution, then what kind of way do I need? A difficult one or an easy one? Easy one. Getting the point? Which means this takes us to the idea of the second type of classification of constitution, which is based on the idea of amendment to the constitution. And according to this parameter, again there are two types of constitution. One is called as the rigid constitution and the other is called as the flexible constitution. So what is a rigid constitution? In a written constitution, we understood that the constitutional laws are to be treated specially. So they can only be amended specially, and that is through a difficult or a complex process. Because it needs a complex process, hence those kind of constitutions are called as rigid constitution. For example, United States of America. Mathematically, you will understand they need a kind of majority called as special majority. You don't need to understand it today because there are many different kind of majorities. It should only make sense when you read all kind of majorities. Getting the point? But you should understand that this special majority is a complex way. The number of votes that you need is very high. It's a complex way. So that's why those constitutions are called as rigid constitution. On the other hand, we just understood that in unwritten constitutions, we see that everything is ordinary. And since it is ordinary, it has to be treated in the ordinary way, which is actually a easy or a simple way. And this easy or simple way, mathematically you will understand, is called as simple majority. Getting it? So those constitutions which can be amended in a simple, easy or ordinary ways is called as flexible constitution. For example, that of UK. And on the other hand, those constitutions which can be amended by a complex or a difficult manner is what is called as a rigid constitution that we see in case of United States of America. Now, if you look at these two systems, you will get one hint also. You know that the state or the government has got three organs. One is legislature, whose work is law making. The second is executive, and the work is law implementation. And then you have judiciary, and the work is interpretation of laws. So one is enactment of law, second is implementation of law, and third is interpretation of laws. With that logic in mind, can you tell me, in this kind of systems or polity or country, who will be more powerful? The legislature, the executive, or the judiciary? And here, who will be powerful? The legislature, the executive, or the judiciary? Can you tell me that? Huh? What do you think about the flexible one? Who will be more powerful? Legislature, right? Executive? Who will be there in flexible? Legislature will be powerful. How? We just understood that all the laws are ordinary laws. So who can make the laws at any point of time? Legislature. And what kind of a process is needed? A very simple or a easy process. So at any point of time, the legislature can make any law. Getting the point? The process is very, very easy. This idea of the legislature being very, very powerful is associated with UK and is also called as the system of parliamentary sovereignty. Getting it? Who is sovereign? Parliament is sovereign. We'll read more about sovereign in preamble, but I'll explain you the little bit basic of it. So who is more powerful here in flexible constitution? Legislature. Why? Because the process is easy. And that's why it is many a time said that the British Parliament can do everything except changing a man to a woman and a woman to a man. What does that mean? That means apart from defying the natural command, it is so powerful that it can do anything and everything. Why? Because one of the reasons is the constitution is an unwritten constitution. All the laws are ordinary and ordinary law needs ordinary treatment. Yes. Sorry? Can they remove the king? They will not remove the king. Bollywood थोड़ी चल रहा है. Why they will remove the king? Is there king stopping democracy in UK? Then why would they remove it? They have a cultural significance of the king. Will you remove the president? Why? He is of no use. Prime Minister is doing everything. See, hypothetically you can imagine everything. But the point is you have to go to that particular country and then read about why the institutions are like that in that particular country. Let me tell you, democracy in UK is much better than many countries, including that of India. So don't conclude that because they have a king, so their democracy is compromised. Getting the point? Huh? Chalo. Hanji. Where?
The legislature is powerful and flexible, we said.
Huh.
We can't define any
We are yet to go there. We are yet to go there. एक साइड डिस्कस किया है ना, दैट्स फाइन. लेट्स गो टू द अदर साइड देन. ये सबको समझ में आया पार्लियामेंट्री सोवरेनिटी. लेट्स गो द अदर साइड, रिजिड कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. नाउ टेल मी, in between the legislature, executive and judiciary, who do you think will be more powerful there? Judiciary. Huh? Why? Then here also it is interpreting. Why? Conserver of constitution. Then what happens with that? Very good. Here the judiciary will become more powerful. And why the judiciary will become more powerful? Because we understood that constitution is the fundamental or the supreme law of the land. So who is going to interpret the constitution? Judiciary, and interpret it not only for the meaning but also for its defense, which means who is going to tell us that this custom is violating the constitution? It is judiciary only. Getting the point? So judiciary becomes more powerful in case of a rigid constitution. This system can be seen in that of US in the form of judicial supremacy. So on the one side we see judicial supremacy and on the other side we see parliamentary sovereignty. Tell me something, why I am not using the alternate terms? Can I use their parliamentary supremacy and write here judicial sovereignty? Which means basically I am asking you the difference between the term sovereignty and supremacy. Can anyone tell me what is the difference? अभी इतने लोग नो बोले थे, कहाँ गए सब? हाँ, sorry, discretionary power with whom? Then what happens? Discretionary power is a different thing. What do you think? Yes sir. Very good. When you say supremacy, supremacy is a comparable feature, which means in between the legislature, executive and judiciary, the judiciary is comparably more powerful than these two organs. Then this model is called as judicial supremacy. So it is more powerful. Who is more powerful here? Judiciary is more powerful. On the other hand, sovereignty as a concept does not mean just these three organs, but rather it can have any other organ. We don't care. And among all the things which are there in the country, who is more powerful? It is the legislature, which means it is all powerful. So what is the difference between sovereignty and supremacy? The difference between all and more. Do you get it? So to an extent, you can use here parliamentary supremacy, but you can never ever use here judicial sovereignty, because in US also there is a constitutional supremacy, which means though the judiciary is powerful than these two, yet all of them are under the Constitution of US. Getting the point? This is the difference between supremacy and sovereignty. Clear to all of you? Which takes us to the third kind of constitutions, where the parameter is nature of constitution and origin of the constitution. So based on nature and origin, constitutions are again divided into two types. One is called as a transactional constitution and the other is called as a transformative constitution. So one is called as transactional constitution and the other is called as transformative constitution. ठीक है? Let's look at transactional first. Transactional comes from the root word transact. Transaction, transact. All of you have done some transaction in your life. Every day almost you are doing it. So can you tell me what is transaction or a transact? What is a transact? It is a give and take. It's an exchange. It's a give and take. It's a negotiation. And whenever there is a negotiation, how many minimum parties do you need? Minimum? At least two parties you need. There should at least be two parties. So in this kind of constitution, you see there are two parties. On the one side, there is state. And on the other side, you have got people living in the country. Now the state, in order to govern the people, would definitely have a set of laws to govern the people. Let's suppose call it C1. So people in that country are governed by the state by a constitution or a set of laws called as C1. Suppose people realize that the laws or the liberties which are given under C1 is not enough for them, which means we need maybe more liberty, maybe more freedom, and C1 is not enough to govern us. Our aspirations are not fulfilled by C1. If that is the case, then these people will agitate, will protest, will strike against the state, and will put forth their demand to give more laws. Depending on the intensity of the agitation or the protest, the state might decide to give them some more laws, maybe replacing C1 with C2. And C2 will definitely be an evolved structure from C1. Similarly, people maybe after 10 year, 20 year, 30 year, 50 year, again figured out that even C2 is not enough. We need some more liberties. So what people would do again? Again protest, again strike, again agitate, and depending on all of those intensity, the state might come up with a new set of law. C3 may be more evolved than that of C2. Then again people after maybe 10 year, 20 year, 50 year again figure it out that even C3 is not enough. So they again strike, and they might come up, the state might come up with the idea of C4. So you look at this constitution. How is the constitution originating? Through evolution from C1 to C2 to C3 to C4. At the same time, if you look at people who are agitating against the state, they are majorly agitating for political rights. The focus is majorly political rights here. For example, if we today are trying to find out a transactional constitution, then almost none of the constitution is a transactional constitution. None of the constitution today are transactional constitution. Why not? That we will understand when we understand transformative. But then if at all you have to take an example, then go to any country having a colonial past. India is also having a colonial past. So to understand transactional constitution, you imagine the British state here, the British government here, and you think about people of India led by Indian National Congress here. And then you see the transaction. See, to govern, let's suppose first we were having 1909. We're having an act in 1909. We protested, agitated against the state, and then we got 1919. Then again we protested, agitated, striked against the state, and we got 1935. Then again we fought for our rights, and then we got 1947. And you see the focus of 1909 or 1919 or 1935 or 1947, majorly it is political right, isn't it? So those kind of constitutions are called as transactional constitution because it is a quantitative constitution, majorly looking at just one aspect of rights, which is political rights. So the role of judiciary will be very, very limited here, isn't it? Think about the role of judiciary before independence. It was very, very limited, isn't it? But then you look at transformative constitution. Like transactional, transact was the root word. In transformative constitution, transform is the root word. And what is the meaning of transform? Change. Very good. So what you will change with the constitution? The life of the people. Ultimately, why do you have a constitution? To change the life of people. And when I say life, this life includes not only political aspect of life, but also social as well as economic aspect of life. Isn't it? Which means these constitutions are not only looking at political rights, but are also looking into social and economic rights. Because what is their aim? To change the life of a person, not only political aspect, but complete life of a person. Now, if the complete life of a person has to be changed, then it cannot be just changed by some struggle or some evolution. Rather, a group of people has to sit down and then decide that what can change the life of people in their country. That group of people which sits down and discusses what can change the life of the people and then make a constitution according to it is called as a constituent assembly. And whenever a constituent assembly is there, constitutions are enacted. They are not evolved, they are enacted. So what is the basic difference? Here the nature is political right, here the nature is not only political but majorly social and economic. And at the same time, if you look at origin, this is majorly evolutionary, whereas this is always enacted. It is always enacted. Getting it? For example, India was also having a constituent assembly, right, which enacted the Constitution of India. They sat for 2 years, 11 months, 18 days, close to 3 years they sat. They discussed out everything. Whatever things that is changing our life today was discussed by the Constituent Assembly, and they made sure that whatever things we were missing out in the last 200 years of colonial struggle, it will be provided to the citizens of India in an independent country. Isn't it? Look at the constitution. Justice, liberty, equality, fraternity. None of the things we were having in the last 200 years of colonial struggle. So this body, it sat down and figured out that whatever things we were missing out, we will aspire to get all the things being written in the constitution so that life of each of the citizen changes, which means this constitution which is written is nothing but a set of all the aspirations that we were missing out for almost 2 centuries, and that's why the constitution is also called as an aspirational document. Understood? Did you get the meaning of supreme law, fundamental law, and aspirational document? Getting it? Okay. Now, so here the basic difference is political right, all the rights, evolution, enacted, role of judiciary is limited, role of judiciary is very high. You look at Supreme Court's role post-independent India, right? Now the perfect example to talk about this majorly is United States of America on the transformative side and colonial constitutions on the other side of transactional constitution. See, please do not write UK here. UK is also transformative. That's because although it is evolutionary constitution, yet the focus is not only political. And at the same time, the judiciary is also active in UK. Now, question to all of you. What do you think is the nature of Indian constitution? It is transactional or transformative? Constitution of India was not there before independence. Constitution was enforced on 26 Jan 1950. Transactional or transformative? It is transformative. But the Supreme Court in 1950s said that, one of the judges said that even the Indian Constitution is transactional in nature. And how did he say it? From 1909 you are getting 1919. From 1919 you are getting 1935, and from 1935 you are getting 1950. If you look at the Constitution of India, it heavily borrows from Government of India Act 1935. Hence, the judge said that 1950 Constitution is nothing but one stage evolution of Government of India Act 1935. That's where he said it is nothing but a transactional constitution. But the truth of the matter or fact of the matter is that that is only one side of the debate. Every colonial history which is associated with any of the country will definitely have some shadow of transactional constitution. That does not mean that the constitution becomes transactional. In Indian constitution also, there are many things which looks like transactional, but then if you look at the major nature of the Indian constitution, it completely is an aspirational document trying to change the life of people, enacted by a constituent assembly, and the role of judiciary is very, very high in this constitution. As such, it is a transformative constitution. But there is no denying the fact that because we have taken huge amount of articles from Government of India Act 1935, there are certain tinges, there are certain shadows of transactional constitution itself. Understood? समझ में आया ये? हाँ? Yes. No, not necessarily. For example, US Constitution will not have transactional elements. Getting the point? They made sure that nothing of the past comes to them. Yes, somebody else. What I said? Today there is no transactional constitution. If you want to see the example of a transactional constitution, where you need to go to any of the colonial past of a country. And that's where we looked at our past. And that's where we understood 1909, 1909. Today, there is a good amount of empowerment of citizenry around the globe because of education, because of interconnectedness, because of exposure, because of experience. So at all the places, unlike the 20th century, where the demand was freedom because of colonization, today there is no colonization like the one we saw in 20th century. So the demand today is to change the life itself. That's why most of the constitution today will show you an element of transformative constitution. Clear to all of you? Yes. Because in some time you will understand, judiciary is to interpret the constitution, and major interpretation takes place in the arena of social and economic rights. So whenever social and economic rights, you can understand subjectivity is very, very high. So the role of judiciary becomes very, very active.
Amendments, like you said, that CP becomes more important. So we can consider it as amendments.
No. Are you only looking at political changes by amendment? Not necessarily, no? You are looking at social changes also, economic changes also, isn't it? Yes. Someone was asking something from the end. Kaun tha? Yes. Nature, matlab intent of the constitution. What is the constitution trying to do? Here it is trying to give you more and more of political rights. There it is trying to give you more and more of political, social as well as economic right. Origin means how that constitution came into being. Here it came as a result of evolution. There it came as a result of enactment. Yes. Yes, majorly yes. Will not confuse that with autocratic right now. It is not the time. Come again. Why people cannot protest for social and economic rights? No, who told you they will not protest? No, we didn't say they will not protest. We said that a negotiation is not going on. A transactional constitution. So at that point of time, majorly it was colonial government. It was not responsible for your welfare. It was only responsible at max to give you some representation. That's what you fought for 200 years. They're not giving you political right. Political right is the easiest of right. You first ask for political rights, then you go to the arena of social or economic right. Who told you that people are not protesting in transformative constitution? They are protesting, but the point is the constitution is not a result of negotiation between people and state, and even if it is a negotiation, not only limited to political rights. Getting it?
But if they ask us that in which category our constitution best fitted, so
What do you think, beta? अभी क्या पढ़ा रहा हूं तब से?
transaction.
What is Indian constitution?
So that from the independence if they ask us, then they give big questions. Na?
आप नहीं बना रहे हो ना सवाल इस बार? हाँ तो फिर नहीं पूछेंगे ऐसे.
So the best one is transformative.
बेस्ट वन नहीं, इट इज ट्रांसफॉर्मेटिव. हाँ पढ़ा चुका. ठीक है, ये समझ में आया? देखो पहला क्लास है, आई ऑल्सो अंडरस्टैंड. धीरे धीरे when you will get the knowledge of the other parts of polity also, you will be able to connect. Just be attentive in the class. At least 4 times I told you that Indian constitution is transformative. Just to deny the fact, I gave you an example also, that one of the judges in 1950s said it is transactional. Then I told you, but the truth of the matter and also the fact of the matter is that it is transformative. Getting the point? हाँ थोड़ा ध्यान दीजिए. Clear till here? ठीक है. Now see, the Constituent Assembly, R is a written constitution, R is an enacted constitution, R is an aspirational document. So a Constituent Assembly sat down and wrote about our constitution. That Constituent Assembly, if you see, it's set for close to 3 years, 2 years, 11 months, 18 days. Data is of no use. Close to 3 years they sat down and then they wrote the Constitution of India. This Constituent Assembly that you see was a demand during the colonial period. And if you see the demand, it starts after 1930 itself. Why 1930? Because in 1930, Pandit Nehru will come up with the idea of Purna Swaraj, not Swaraj, Purna Swaraj, which is complete independence. Till that time, none of the leader explicitly ever told that what is the objective of the national struggle. No one said that we have to throw out the Britishers itself, apart from the extremists. But then the mainstream political actors, it starts with Pandit Nehru, the Indian National Congress session of 1929, wherein he declares that the objective of the national movement is complete independence. Logically speaking, if it is complete independence, that means Britisher will be thrown out of India. There will be no British forces inside India. So who will be in India? Only Indians. Only Indians will be there inside India. But then to govern the Indians inside India, you need a set of laws. You need rules and regulations. You need constitution. You cannot use the same constitution or the set of laws which your exploiter, your colonizer were using for you. Which means you need a new set of laws to govern yourself. And that's why only after Pandit Nehru made a demand of Purna Swaraj, for the first time you will come across in 1934 that M.N. Roy, a tall communist leader of that time, for the first time will make a demand for a constituent assembly. But then he is from Communist Party, but at that point of time it was Indian National Congress which was representing India. So the demand has to come from INC to make it a legitimate demand. So in the year 1935, Indian National Congress will also make the demand, which will be concretized by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru in the year 1938, saying that there would be direct elections to the Constituent Assembly of India, which will frame the constitution after Purna Swaraj. But then if you look at the demand of Indians in 1930s, all of these demands is made to whom? To the British government. But you will see that there is no nudge or response from the British government in 1930s. Even though we are making the demands, there is no response from the Britishers to our demand of a constituent assembly. Because Britishers saying yes to constituent assembly means Britishers agreeing to the idea that we will get complete independence. But at this point of time, there are two things that you should understand. Number one, India was the most prized possession of the Britishers. That Great Britain you see na, that great is contributed by India. Getting it? There is nothing great in Britain. The only greatness is they occupied us for 200 years. Industrial revolution you will read, that revolution is all because of the sweat of Indians. Getting it? So India was the most prized possession of Britishers, and Britishers are no fool. So they were not in a mood to leave India to Indians. Getting the point? Number one. And number two, if you look internationally in the 1930s also, or till actually 1930s, Britishers were the more or the most formidable force or the strongest of nations. There's a saying which says that the sun never sets for the British Empire, which means across the length and breadth of this planet Earth, there is a piece of land which is occupied by Britisher and the sun is still there, which means that they were a force to reckon with. Throughout the length and breadth, latitude and longitude of Earth, you will see the British forces. So at one time they are most powerful, and at the same time they are occupying something which is very, very near to them. Do you think they are going to leave it? Never ever. That's why none of them responded to an almost decade demand of Constituent Assembly. But then this situation was going to change, and it changed on 1st of September 1939, which is bombing of Poland by Germany, what is also called as official declaration of Second World War. As the World War intensified and the involvement of the Britishers started, resources were being spent by the Britishers in the World War, and then along with the Britishers, two other new countries were coming up the power scenario leaders of the world, USA on one side and USSR on another side. Now Britishers wanted the efforts of Indians, because in World War I, Indians contributed, Indians contributed, but in World War II, there is no contribution from Indian side. So USSR and USA, they started creating pressure over Britain, saying that, where are Indians? You have a big country there, population, where are Indians? They contributed well in World War I, where are they in World War II? But then Britain is not responding to us, because our demand is complete independence. But now that they are creating pressure and the World War II is intensifying, for the first time officially the Britishers actually responded to us was in the year 1940. That was through something called as August Offer. You will read all of these history in modern India again in detail. I'm just telling you the political concept of it. So August Offer is the place, or is the offer by which the Britishers offered some kind of talks with that of Indian. But then they did a very, vague reply to us, that they said that in principle we agree to your demand to Constituent Assembly. Now, in principle is a very verbal term. It can mean anything, right? You can always defy your in principle words. All of you in principle now agree to read at least 14 hours a day. But in principle है, 2-4 महीने में समझ में आएगा. Getting the point? So this was not something that we were going to trust. So we never trusted it, and we did not participate in World War II. But then the war started intensifying, and then Japan got into the other group that you will read in world history. And then Japan started intensifying the war efforts here in and around India. So USA and USSR, they started creating more pressure on Britishers, that what are you waiting for? Why don't you go and talk to Indians? Why don't you take their participation? Or are you waiting for Japan to go inside India? Upon this pressure, the Britishers again came back to us in the year 1942 in the form of Cripps mission. Again, what they provided us in Cripps mission was again a hollowed promise. They said that you help us win World War II. After we win the war, we will see what can be done for Constituent Assembly. Now, we were not new to all of these fake promises of the Britishers. 200 साल का experience है. ठीक है. We said we don't want your fake promises. Gandhi said, Cripps mission is a post-dated check. It is useless. Take it away and go back. We don't want it. Neither Indian National Congress nor Muslim League at that point of time, they agreed to whatever was given in Cripps mission. Anyways, what happened to World War happened, that you will read in detail. But by the end of the World War, two things changed, both in international arena also and in local arena also. Internationally speaking, Britain was no more world power number one. Rather, that spot is now occupied by two other countries, USA and USSR. So Britishers are no more world power number one. At the same time, an organization like United Nations has come up, which is advocating the freedom struggle of many of the countries in Asia as well as Africa, including that of India. And nationally, if you see at the efforts behind the national movement has intensified like anything after failure of Cripps mission, which led to Quit India movement. It was a question in UPSC, what led to Quit India movement? Failure of Cripps mission led to Quit India movement. Getting it? These are things that the history teacher will teach you in detail. I'm not the right person to teach you that. But anyways, by that time we see that internationally and nationally, the position of India vis-a-vis that of Britishers have changed. So the Britishers now responded for the last time to our call in the year 1946 with something called as the Cabinet Mission Plan. Now again, they suggested a few things in Cabinet Mission Plan which was not agreeable either to the Congress or to the Muslim League. So again, we rejected the Cabinet Mission Plan. But though we rejected the Cabinet Mission, in this particular plan, the Britisher gave us a plan for the composition of the Constituent Assembly. So though we rejected the plan, we accepted the idea of composition of the Constituent Assembly from Cabinet Mission Plan. And based on this idea given by Cabinet Mission Plan, we made our Constituent Assembly in India. If you look at this Constituent Assembly, it was having membership from both the British provinces as well as the princely states. The members from British provinces were indirectly elected. However, Pandit Nehru was saying direct election, remember? But then we took the idea of indirect election. The basic difference between direct and indirect election is very simple. Suppose I elect you and you represent me. This is direct elections. Suppose I elect you and then you elect somebody else and that somebody else represents me. That is indirect election. Why? Because I did not elect her directly. I elected her, she elected her, and she now represents me. That is indirect. So you look at Lok Sabha, you look at state legislative, that is direct. Because we, don't repeat it, it is direct election. But you look at Rajya Sabha, we never elect the member of Rajya Sabha directly. We elect the member of state legislative assembly. They elect the member of Rajya Sabha. For example, president. Do we elect the president directly? No. So that is indirect election. So we took the idea of indirect election for the British provinces, whereas for the princely states, those which were ruled by kings and princes, there we came through the idea of nominations. So can I say that the Constituent Assembly was a partly elected and a partly nominated body? Can I say that? Absolutely yes. It's a partly elected and partly nominated body. The beauty of this partly elected and partly nominated body is that almost all the important leaders of that time who played an important role in Indian freedom struggle, they got a representation in the Constituent Assembly. Except two. There are two people who never ever set their foot into the Constituent Assembly. First is Muhammad Ali Jinnah and the other is Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. These two people were never a part of Constituent Assembly. Is it clear to all of you? Another PYQ. Getting it? They asked you two sentences. It was a partly elected, partly nominated body, and second statement was Gandhiji and Jinnah were never a part of Constituent Assembly. Again true. Now, all of this membership that you see, which comprised the Constituent Assembly of India, they made the Constitution of India after due deliberation of close to 3 years. And then the Constituent Assembly was divided into major committees and minor committees. These are all factual things, not at all needed to be discussed. Just remember that of all the committees, there was one committee which is very, very, very important, and that is drafting committee, the committee responsible for drafting or making the Constitution of India, headed by Dr. Ambedkar. Apart from Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, there were many other members, actually taller members than that of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar himself, like K.M. Munshi, right? And apart from that, there was one civil servant, B.N. Rao, Sir B.N. Rao. Basically, it is the effort of Dr. Ambedkar and Sir B.N. Rao which gives us the Constitution of India. Read about Sir B.N. Rao today, go home and do a little search about him. He is the one who followed the instruction of Dr. Ambedkar and made a detailed study of what is Constitution around the globe. And this drafting committee, after looking at many constitutions, they drafted what is Constitution of India. And this Constitution of India, which came into being, was having a preamble, having certain provisions and certain schedules in the Constitution. So after working for 3 years, what they made is Constitution of India. So in 1950, 26 Jan 1950, when the Constitution was enforced, it was having a preamble. The preamble is the introduction to the Constitution. We'll read the chapter in the next class itself. Introduction to the Constitution. As far as provisions are concerned, remember, the Constitution is divided into parts. The Constitution is divided into parts. Now, if the parts are big, then each of the parts are divided into chapters. So not necessarily every part is divided into chapters. Only when the parts are big, they are divided into chapters. Each chapters or part would have articles. Articles, most important thing for you. Keep on asking ना सर कितने याद रखने हैं? देखो 20-25 है वो अपने से याद हो जाएंगे. आपको मेहनत करने की जरूरत नहीं है. If you are attentive, you will remember them. Articles. अच्छा, can anyone tell me what is an article? Right? A stand-alone provision in the Constitution is an article. A stand-alone provision in the Constitution is an article. Stand-alone, which means self-sustained. Which means to understand Article 1, you don't need to read Article 2, 3, 5, 10, 20 or 30. Article 1 is capable enough to give you the meaning of what Article 1 means. Stand-alone provision. Getting it? Now each of the articles are divided into clauses, and then clauses into sub-clauses, sub-clauses into sub-sub-clauses. Like that, it is divided. This is how the provision of the constitution looks like. In 1950, when it came, it was having close to 395 articles or 365, just check it out, 395 I think, 395 articles, right? Numbers are not important. And then comes the schedule, which is the quantitative information at the end, like appendix. Quantitative information which are jolted at one place. For instance, Schedule 1 has got a list of all the states and UTs. So whenever in Constitution we are talking about all the states, we don't need to write down the name of 28 states and 8 UTs. We can just write down as the states given in Schedule 1. Getting the point? When the Constitution came into being, there were 8 schedules. This was the structure of the Constitution when it came into being in the year 1950. But today, 2024, if we look at the structure of the Constitution, it is having a preamble. When we talk about the provision, it is having more than 465 articles. And if you look at schedules, there are 12 schedules, which means the Constitution that we are holding in our hand today is different from the Constitution which was given to us by Ambedkar and team. And one of the reasons for the changes that you are seeing is because of a process called as amendment. Amendment means change. So the Constitution has been amended multiple times, actually more than 100 times till today. Fortunately, we'll read the 100th amendment in the class only. So it has been amended more than 100 times. Now the point is, what is amendment you understand is the change. My question to all of you, why amendment? If Ambedkar and team did such a good work and gave us one of the best of the constitutions of the world, why do we need to change it? Can you now relate it to the definition of law? It is collective conscience, and conscience or value system changes. So the value system which was there in 1950 does not necessarily be there in 1960s or 70s or 72 or 75 or 79 or 80 or 90 or 2010 or 20. And according to the changing value system, to cope with what is the social, economic as well as political demands of the society, the law has to make the changes in order to respond to the changes. This particular thing was put forth by Pandit Nehru very beautifully in the Constituent Assembly. And he said that anything which is stagnant, stagnancy, anything which is stagnant, it lose its relevance, which means stagnancy is equal to irrelevancy. So everything has to change with time, adopt itself with time. Anything which will get fossilized, anything which doesn't change, it will lose relevance with time. The society will discard it. Now the Constitution is also a document to govern the society. It also cannot just become stagnant, otherwise even the Constitution will also be discarded. Look at Nepal, look at France, what is happening? Discarding of Constitution, which means the Constitution also, like a law, has to respond to the changing need of time. And that's why we have made amendments, and we have made many amendments. We'll read about many, like the 1st, the 7th, the 24th, 25th, the 44th amendment, mini constitution, 42nd, sorry, then 44th by Janata Party to neutralize 42nd. Then we'll read about 73rd, 74th, 100th. We read about many amendment, and what is the spirit behind the amendment? That the Constitution remains a relevant document. If that is the case, can I say that the Constitution of India is also growing with us? Can I say that? Absolutely yes, it is growing with us. So we can say that Constitution is a living document. If it is growing, it is a living document, right? Now tell me with your basic knowledge of chemistry, living documents or living things are organic things or inorganic things? Organic things. So can we say that the constitution is a organic document or is an organic set of laws, which means as the society changes, the law or its interpretation must change with the society. For instance, look at Article 21, the one we were discussing. It is talking about life. It is talking about dignified life rather today. It is talking about life. If you look at the interpretation of Article 21 in 1950s and majorly 1960s, then you will see that there was a very much quantitative interpretation of the law, saying that right to life is more about having a protected life, which means state having a duty to protect your life. Getting the point? However, this idea, it started changing with the change in the society itself, and then in 1970s and majorly 80s, we said not only protected life, but rather a dignified life. Definitely protected life, but a dignified life. It is not some animal existence. Rather, it is a human existence. So dignity has to be there in the life. By 1990s and early 2000, we understood that it is not only just dignified life, rather that dignity comes from education. So education is a part and parcel of right to life. Hence, we came across the idea of Article 21A, or what is also called as right to education. Getting the point? With changing society, the interpretation is changing. Now, with the further change in society, maybe by 2000 and 2010, we understood that there is too much of data floating all around. Internet revolution is there, penetration of smartphone is there, data is so much floating all around us. So we understood that this life cannot be a dignified life unless and until we provide privacy to those lives. So we came up with the idea of right to privacy under same Article 21. So you see, Article 21 is responding to the change in value system in the society. Yes or no? It is responding. This is the meaning of calling the Constitution as an organic law of the land. It is organic. It grows with the society. Clear to all of you? ये समझ में आया सबको? This is last year mains question, 15 marks. That's why I said be attentive in the class. No book is going to explain you all of these things. Get it in the class itself. Getting it? यहाँ तक सबको समझ में आया? ठीक है. Now, despite of all of these changes, what you see, there are certain features of the Constitution which are very, very important, and they define what Constitution of India is. These features are the most important features, or are also called as the salient feature of Indian Constitution. Please give the heading salient feature of Indian Constitution. Silent नहीं है, salient है. Salient features means the most important features. Salient feature of Indian Constitution. See, before we start this topic, let me tell you two things at the outset itself. Number one, there is, listen to me. Number one, there is no exhaustive list of saying that these are the salient feature of the Constitution, which means no book, no teacher can tell you that these 10 or 12 or 14 or 20 are the salient features. Rather, whatever you are reading in the polity classes is nothing but salient features. Getting it? Number one. Number two, see, many of the salient features that we will read here today, or at least will mark here today, are going to become full-fledged chapters by themselves. So there is no point of wasting time on them. Rather, we will note them and leave it. For example, fundamental rights is a salient feature. You have got so many classes for fundamental rights. No point of wasting time in understanding what is fundamental, right? So we'll leave it then and there. Those things which needs a philosophical or a technical understanding, we'll keep on clearing them here in the class itself. Let's start with that and write the first feature, that it is the lengthiest written document. So if you look at Constitution of India, it is a bulky document. When it came into being, it was having close to 90,000 words. Okay, it's one of the elephantine structures that we have seen for constitutions. Now there are various reasons why it becomes such a lengthy document. There are certain reasons behind it, and the major reasons are 4 reasons. For example, the first one is the geographical reason, which is vastness of the country. India is a vast country. Huh? Do you think vastness leads to a big constitution? No. USA is also a vast country. It is diversity which leads to a vast constitution. Why diversity? Different aspirations. And then constitution is an aspirational document. It will try to incorporate the aspirations of all the communities. So what will happen? It will become a bulky document. So it is not only vastness, but it is also diversity. Getting it? Second, historical reasons. We already discussed Constitution of India 1950 borrows heavily from Government of India Act 1935. Now this act that you see, Government of India Act 1935, it by itself is a bulky document. Now over and above that bulky document, you are adding more features to it. So what happens as a result of it? You get a bulkier document. Third, single constitution. When you generally look at vast countries like that of US, you will come across the idea of dual or double constitutions, which means a constitution at the central level and a constitution at the respective state levels. But in case of India, there is no such setting, which means we have got just one constitution which is dealing with aspirations of both the center as well as the state. Definitely the result is we need to write down more things. And the fourth one is the presence of legal luminaries. If you look at the composition of Constituent Assembly, it was heavily dominated by lawyers, people having a background in law. Though law is a good profession, there are a little bit hazard of the profession. And the hazard is that lawyers love things in details, which means their work is to interpret a subjective situation in the most objective manner. As a result, what they have to do? They have to write more. And that's why you look at Constitution of India, there is a huge amount of detailing in almost all the provisions. Not only about the detailing and increasing the length of the book, it is also about the vocabulary. You look at the choice of words in the Constitution. If you look at any other constitution, majorly look at US Constitution. You can read it and an ordinary person can very well understand it. But the problem with Indian Constitution is the language is so legalistic that an ordinary citizen finds it almost impossible to understand thoroughly what a constitution is. And that's why you have so many polity classes. Otherwise, ek do hote. Getting the point? Because it is very difficult to understand it. These are the features which makes the Indian Constitution a bulky document. Many a time the Indian Constitution is actually criticized that it is a document for the lawyers, made by the lawyers. Even to an extreme, it is also criticized. It is said that if nothing else, then this constitution will generate employment for lawyers. How? If any of your rights are infringed, you'll have to go to the court of law. in the court of law. Can you contest your own case? No, you have to take a lawyer and pay him fees. And what that person is doing? Interpreting the constitution for you. Made by whom? By another lawyer. That's why it is said, if nothing else, it will generate employment for lawyers. Anyways, whatever the case may be, we have an elephantine size constitution, which is a very, very bulky document. That is the first feature of our Indian constitution. The second important feature is that it's a document of collective wisdom. It is a document of collective wisdom. See, when the drafting committee was making Constitution of India, then Dr. Ambedkar very proudly said, or rather announced in the Constituent Assembly, that after ransacking more than 60 constitutions, we have framed the Constitution of India, which means they thoroughly observed close to 60 working constitutions around the globe. And after that, the Constitution of India was made, which invited a kind of criticism from the other sector, saying that then the Constitution of India is not an original document. Rather, it is nothing but a bag of borrowings. What it is? It is nothing but a bag of borrowing, which means the drafting committee, what it did, it looked at other constitution. Let's suppose C1 is a constitution, and then C2 is a constitution, and C3 is a constitution, and they figured out some features which are good in C1, C2, C3 or C4, and whatever features they looked at here and they thought that these are good features, they transferred those features to Constitution of India. So what is there in Constitution of India? All those features which are there in other constitution. So this constitution is nothing but a bag of borrowing. You have only borrowed the ideas of other, the features of others. So this is not an original document, rather it is an imitation. Copy paste document. Getting it? But then this criticism is not a valid criticism. It is for all those people who could not understand how the drafting committee was working. First thing you should understand is that the number of original ideas are always less, and there is no restriction in ever adopting any of the original idea. The point is that how do we adopt it matters a lot to us. So though the critics said that the drafting committee looked at other constitution and transferred or imported those features to Constitution of India, this is not true. Rather, the truth is that they definitely looked at many constitutions, observed the features which are important or good features, then before taking that, they applied here a lens called as the Indian contextual lens, which means that definitely the drafting committee looked at C1 and definitely looked at ABC, but before importing ABC, they looked at the application of A, B or C in the Indian context. Then it may happen that A was completely accepted like A itself in the Indian constitution, but then B did not suit to the Indian context. So we dropped it. Even if it was a good feature, we dropped it. Maybe C was a feature which was good, but then it was not being adopted to Indian context. So maybe we had to change it a little, C dash, and then we accepted it. So if you look at the way the drafting committee worked, they did not just copy and pasted the features, but rather what they did is they did a good amount of mental exercise to understand whether those things are applicable to Indian context or not. For example, we have got many features from Britain. Have we copied parliamentary sovereignty? Have we got an unwritten constitution? So we are not a copy-paste document. For example, we adopted many things from US. Are we having judicial supremacy? No. Are we having due process of law? You'll understand these things. No, we are not having it. At least not explicitly having it in the constitution. Which means we have not just copy-pasted it. For example, when Dr. Ambedkar sent Sir B.N. Rao to US to go and discuss with the Chief Justice of Supreme Court of US that what kind of a jurisdictional system we should take. Should we go for procedure established by law, which is a British concept, or should we go for due process of law, which is an American concept? You'll understand this, both of the terms, in fundamental right chapter, and you will come to an idea that due process of law looks like a better process, but that is not truth. All the systems are good depending on the country itself. But at that point of time, Dr. Ambedkar was of the mood that we should go ahead with due process of law, because due process of law brings in more power to judiciary. One of the reasons why there is judicial supremacy in US. So he sent Sir Rao. Sir B.N. Rao went there, discussed the complete case with the Chief Justice, and the Chief Justice said that, see, it looks like due process of law is a good process, but then it also creates unwanted burden on the judiciary. You have just got independence like last year. Do not burden unnecessarily your judiciary. Don't go for due process of law, rather go for procedure established by law. Upon this discussion, we dropped the idea of due process of law and we went for procedure established by law. Though we liked it, yet it was not suiting the Indian context, so we had to drop it. Getting the point? Which means that Indian Constitution is not a document which is imitated, is not a document which is a bag of borrowing, but at best what we can tell is that it is a document of collective wisdom. So whatever all the countries have learned in their due years of experience, we took those experiences and after applying them to Indian context, if they were suiting to us, we incorporated them in the Indian Constitution. Clear to all of you? It is not a bag of borrowing. Clear? Let's look at other features. For example, it is a blend of rigidity and flexibility. Now you already know about rigid constitution and flexible constitutions. India is a written constitution. So ideally speaking, we should be a rigid constitution, but then see again, Indian contextual lens. Neither we accepted the US model nor the UK model, rather we went ahead for a blend of both. So some part of the constitution can be amended by a rigid process and some parts of the constitution can be amended by a flexible process. Understood? Similarly, the next feature is neither we have got parliamentary sovereignty nor we adopted judicial supremacy. Again, another idea of collective wisdom. Neither we adopted the US model of judicial supremacy, that the Supreme Court is more powerful than executive or the legislature, nor did we subscribe to the idea of making the parliament all powerful. In India, parliament is not powerful. Whatever laws the parliament makes, it can be questioned by the judiciary. At the same time, judiciary is not also very powerful. If judiciary does something, it can be changed by making a law by the parliament, which means neither parliament nor judiciary is supreme in India, rather it is Constitution of India which is supreme. So we went ahead with the idea of constitutional supremacy, placing each of the organ in their due places, that we will understand by a concept of separation of power today. Getting it? So what we went for? Constitutional supremacy, neither parliamentary sovereignty nor US model of judicial supremacy. Clear to all of you? Next, a very important feature is that we have a federal polity with unitary bias. So what kind of a polity we have? We have a federal polity with unitary bias, which means we have to first understand that there are two kind of polities all around. One polity is called as a federal polity, and the other kind of polity is called as a unitary polity. So countries can be divided into two types, either unitary polity or a federal polity. Let's try to understand them. Let's look at unitary polity. Unitary comes from the root word unit, which means single or one, which means in these kind of setup, there is only one government. You call it central government, you call it union government, you call it single government, whatever you want to call it, you call it. But then there is only one government, and that one government is all powerful government. So all power resides where? With this government, the union government or the central government or the single government, whatever one you want to call it. Now when you say someone is more powerful or all powerful or is powerful, what do you mean by that? When you say the DC is more powerful or the SP is very powerful, what do you mean by that? Have you seen the movie Spider-Man?
Yes.
Purani wali, pehli wali.
Yes, sir.
There is a dialogue, if you know, with power comes responsibility. With absolute power comes absolute responsibility. That's a political dialogue which tells you about definition of power. Power is responsibility. What is power? It is responsibility. When you say that this government is having all power, what does it mean? This government has got all responsibilities. Getting the point? Now do you understand when you say district collector is very powerful, what does it mean? He has got very much responsibilities to do, and same is with SP. Getting the point? That is power, which is responsibility in the right terms. Getting the point? So all responsibility lies with whom? With this union government or the central government. If that is the case, then all workload is residing in this one government. It may happen at some time that the workload increases extraordinarily. It may happen कि workload kabhi बढ़ गया. Now if the workload increases, because there is only one government, if the workload increases, then the single government may find it difficult to do all the work by itself. Then it may decide to form some more governments, maybe smaller governments. Let's call them regional governments. And what is the work of the regional governments? To help the central government in unloading the workload. And who created the regional government? The central government. Now, one government was only working. With so many regional government, now 5 governments are working. So definitely the workload which was here, after some time, it will generally drop down. Because one person was doing, now 5 people are doing. So definitely it will come down. Once the workload come down, once it becomes normal, if now the union government says, now that my workload has become normal, I don't need these regional governments anymore, can it scrap them? Definitely yes, they can be scrapped. And why they can be scrapped? Because their origin lies with the union government. At the same time, the union government is all powerful. So it is having the power not only to give birth to them, but also to abolish them. This kind of system where there is concentration of power at one place is a feature or is the definition of unitary government. Understood? That is what is unitary polity. On the other hand, when you look at federal polity, this federal comes from the term foedus, which means an agreement. Agreement, at least two parties should be there in an agreement. So there are two parties. One is the union government and the other is the regional government or the state government. And then their genesis is guaranteed by another document called as constitution. This constitution defines the power and responsibility of the union government and also defines the power and responsibility of regional government. Mark my words, regional governments are not a result of union government. They're a result of constitution. So if at a point of time the union government says, I don't need the regional government, can they be scrapped? No. If all the regional government come together and they say, we don't need the union government, can it be scrapped? No. Rather, both are independent and autonomous of each other, and the constitution guarantees their existence. Their power, role, responsibility, functions, all is decided by constitution, unlike unitary polity, where everything is decided by union government or the central government. Which means here there is concentration of power and here there is division of power. So power is not concentrated at one place, rather it is divided into two units through an agreement. That is the basis of federal polity. If you look at the example of it, United States of America is an example of a federal polity, whereas UK is an example of a unitary polity, which means there must be certain features of unitary polity and there must be certain features of federal polity. Let's try noting down them. Let's look at the features of federal and unitary polity. In case of federal polity, you will always have a written constitution. You cannot have an unwritten constitution in case of federal polity. Why? Division of power will be stated in a written constitution. If it is an unwritten constitution, the parliament can change it, can take away all the power from state at any point of time. So that's why always a written constitution in case of a federal polity. Whereas you can anytime have a written as well as an unwritten constitution in case of a unitary polity. Unwritten, definitely concentration of power is at center. How written constitution give unitary polity? If the constitution itself states that all power is concentrated in the center, it is a written constitution giving you a unitary polity. Getting the point? First thing. Second thing, in a federal polity, you will always come across dual constitutions, which means one constitution at the central level and another constitution at the regional or state level. Whereas in case of a unitary polity, you'll always come across a single constitution. If at all you see any dual constitution, then also you should understand that is only for namesake. All power is there in the single constitution, single government. Third, here you will always come across dual government. One central government and other regional government, which are autonomous. Whereas here you will always come across a single government. Sometimes you may come across dual government, but there also you should understand, even if it is dual government, more power lies with the center. So the regional government are a result of the power of the central government. Getting it? Here you will always have double citizenship or dual citizenship, which means the people of the country will be having two citizenships, one of the center and one of the respective states. Whereas here you will always come across single citizenship and not dual citizenship. It is always single citizenship. Getting it? Here you will always come across a system called as bicameralism. By means two, camera means house. So you'll always see two houses in parliament. For example, in India, you see Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Rajya is state, Sabha is council. Council of States is Rajya Sabha, which is for putting forth the interest of states. So you'll always come across bicameralism, whereas here you'll always come across unicameralism. In some instances, you might see bicameralism, but then even if there is another house, that is only for namesake. All the power lies with one house. Getting the point? And the last and the most important feature is here you will always see an independent judiciary. And here you will always see an integrated judiciary. The last point, they have asked this thrice in the last 10 years. 3 times. Last point only. Integrated and independent judiciary. ठीक है, इसको समझते हैं थोड़ा सा और. Independent and integrated judiciary. Please stop asking useless question. Doesn't make a sense. ठीक है. Whatever are important question, I have read it. I'll tell you at the respective place. Anyways, 90% of them we have dealt in the class itself. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Please wait and do the classes properly. इतना लंबा लंबा लिख रहे हो, सबके आंसर अपने आप आ रहे हैं. ठीक है. इंडिपेंडेंट एंड इंटीग्रेटेड जुडिशरी. रुक जा बेटा, इसको पढ़ाते हैं उसके बाद. Independent and integrated judiciary. Let's try to understand what that means. Let's look at integrated judiciary first, and let's look at India only to understand it. It will be very easy. Integrated means connected one with the other. That is only integration, right? Coming together is what is integration. So you look at the judicial structure in India. At the apex, you have got the Supreme Court, right? At the top. Under the Supreme Court, there are high courts. Under each of the high court, there are district courts, which means these courts are connected to these and these are connected to this. This is integration. Not only structural integration. What you see is structural integration. Structurally they are integrated. In India, the courts are functionally integrated also, which means that the set of laws which are used by this court or this court or this court are same. It is not that the Supreme Court will only look at central laws, High Court will look at state laws, and District Court will look at local laws. No. It is the same set of laws which are used by this as well as this set of court. That is why when there is a person who goes to a district court and the district court gives a verdict and he is not satisfied with it, he can go to the higher court and appeal it. Why? Because they are integrated. When a verdict is given by the high court and he is not satisfied with it, then he can go to Supreme Court. Now if Supreme Court gives a verdict and is not satisfied with it, again Supreme Court. Isn't it? Huh? Again a verdict is given, he is not satisfied, then again Supreme Court. Second review petition. दो review डाल सकते हैं. Again he is not satisfied. Huh? Again Supreme Court. Special leave petition. Again he is not satisfied. Again Supreme Court. Curative petition. Which means end of the day where you are reaching? Do you have any way out if the Supreme Court is wrong? End of the day, Supreme Court is also chaired by human beings only, right? Judges are human only. To human is to err, right? So they can also be wrong. That is why it is said that Supreme Court in India is not supreme because it is apex. It is supreme because it is final. Getting the point? You do not have a way out if the Supreme Court is wrong. It's a criticism of the Supreme Court in India. Getting the point? Now the point is, everything goes back and hits where? To the Supreme Court. What is this? Concentration of power or division of power? Concentration of power. Concentration of power is a feature of federal system or unitary system. So this is something that you will see in unitary polity. Understood? Now this is the structure of judiciary. When this judiciary is kept aloof or separated from the executive and the legislature, which means neither executive nor legislature intervenes in the day-to-day governance or work of the judiciary, it is called as independent judiciary. Which means the Prime Minister will not tell a Supreme Court judge how cases are to be decided. Which means the Speaker will not tell the High Court judges how transfer are to be made. When they do not interfere in the day-to-day working of the judiciary, it is called as independent judiciary. Getting it? An independent judiciary is a feature of federal polity. Can you tell me why do you need an independent judiciary here? Which decisions? Which kind of judicial decision? Very good. There are two governments here. Definitely friction will be there. Definitely that will go to Supreme Court. Their court should not be biased. That's why you have an independent judiciary in a federal polity. Whereas here it is concentration of power. So everything ends up with the Supreme Court itself. Now, let's do a very small exercise. Let's look at here federal polity. And I told you the example is United States of America. These features that you see on the board are also called as true federation. So for political scientists and philosophers all across globe, USA is an example of a federation which is true in nature, true federation. And for a true federation, these are the features. So if any country deviates anything from these features which are written, the political community will not consider that country as a federation. Getting the point? For them, what is federation? The model of United States of America, and that's why they call it true federation. So if you are calling yourself a federation, then the political community will accept your federation when? Only when you copy paste what is there in US. Similarly, this is UK. Now let's look at Indian Constitution. Look at here. Do we have a written constitution or unwritten constitution? We have a written constitution. Do we have dual constitution? Rather we have single constitution. Do we have dual government? Yes, we have dual government, but central government is more powerful. Do we have double citizenship? No, rather we have single citizenship. Do we have bicameralism? Yes, we have bicameralism, but Lok Sabha appears to be more powerful. Let's look at independent judiciary. Do we have independent judiciary? Absolutely yes. Otherwise, how we are surviving? Otherwise, how we are surviving without independent judiciary? In your country, do you think the Prime Minister goes and tells the Supreme Court how judges are to be performing their act? Or do you think the Speaker goes and tells them how cases are to be decided? No, there is no regular intervention. So there is definitely independent judiciary. Achha, do we have integrated judiciary? Absolutely yes, which means we have both of them. Remember, document of collective wisdom. We are not a copy-paste document. But then, when we compare both the features, we see that we have got some features from federal polity, we have got some features from unitary polity. But then, if we see closely our polity, though we have got federal polity, we have a good amount of bias for unitary polity. So the more features are indicating towards a unitary polity, and that's one of the most important feature of India. That is a federal polity with unitary bias. You will read terms like quasi-federal state, federation sui generis in federalism chapter, which is nothing but the idea of a federal polity with unitary bias. समझ में आया? Now all the features which are left are only notation. We don't have to understand anything. For example, fundamental rights. You will read a chapter on this. For example, DPSPs, directive principle of state policies. For example, emergency provisions. For example, fundamental duties. For example, local government or parliamentary system. Parliamentary system is an easy one. See, simply, you know that the state or the government has got three organs, which is legislative, executive, and judiciary. When there is a complete separation of all the three organs, it leads to a system called as presidential system, right? Whereas in a parliamentary system, you see that the executive is a part of legislature. You will read it in detail in parliament chapter. Just for introduction, which means to become a minister, first you have to become a member of parliament, which means Mr. Modi is not only the prime minister, a part of executive, he is also a MP, a part of legislature. Getting it? Huh? This is what is parliamentary system. You will read in detail why we took it and all. So these are the major salient features of Indian Constitution. Understood? This was the part to be understood in detail. You got all of these, especially federal polity with unitary bias. So this is what is the salient feature of Constitution. Please give the heading Utility of Constitution. Why we have a Constitution? Why do we really need a क्लास के बाद बता तुमको ठीक है utility of constitution, which is why do we need a constitution? Why we not call it unitary polity with federal bias? But are you having more feature from federalism or more feature from unitary polity? Where is your biasness? Towards federal state or toward unitary state? Where are we having our bias? Towards unitary. So why we will call it a federal bias? Do we have a federal bias? No, we have a unitary bias. Understood, Ayushi? Utility of constitution. Why we have a constitution? Can anyone tell me why we have a constitution? Anything else? हाँ अरे 3 बार बोल लिया मिनिमल कोऑर्डिनेशन सेट ही नहीं हो रहा है कहीं हाँ टेल मी समथिंग ग्रेटर देन दैट हाँ very good. There is only one and the most important utility of constitution, which is to limit the government. Everything else comes from this. So what is the utility of constitution? To limit the government. Now what is this limiting of government? Please write a heading, doctrine of limited government. Go home today and read about doctrine and how they are different from theory. No one will ask you, but you should know the difference between doctrine and theory. Right now I am teaching you doctrine of limited government. In some time I will teach you theory of separation of powers. Getting it? So please read doctrine of limited government. Sorry, doctrine and theory. So doctrine of limited government. If you look at a modern state, which is today's state, the state or the government is divided into three organs. What are the three organs of the government? The executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. What is the work of executive? Implementation of law. The work of judiciary is interpretation of laws, and the work of legislature is enactment of laws. These are the three functions given to the three organs of the government. But then this is a modern phenomenon, what you see today. The state or the government was not like this always. Rather, if you go back a few centuries, you will not come across a state. Rather, what you will come across will be a kingdom. And that kingdom will be ruled not through government by a person called as king. This king is responsible for enactment of laws. The same king is responsible for implementing those laws, and the same king is responsible for delivering of justice or interpretation of laws. Which means all power is concentrated where? Is concentrated with the king. What kind of power? Absolute power. There is absolute power. Absolute means there is no limit or restriction to that power, which means you cannot go to the king and say that, sir, from tomorrow morning you will not be able to dispense justice. You cannot interpret a law, you will only make laws and implement them. What the king will do? Will kill you then and there. Can your relative question your death? No, they cannot. Because king is absolute power, and killing you or your family members or anyone not being able to question the king only shows us what is arbitrary power, what is absolute power, which is leading to something called as arbitrary actions. Actions not having any logic, not having any rational. But can you question the arbitrary actions of the king? No, you cannot question. Why you cannot question? Because power is absolute. That's where you will see the king becoming tyrants with time. So when we understood with time that this is not a structure of the state or government that we want, because under this you can be killed any point of time. There is no liberty for you, there is no development for you. Then we understood that this is not the model to go ahead. So we started struggling for a different kind of model of state, which is what we see today in the form of government being divided into three organs. Getting it? Now, if you look at king and the government, there was absolute power with the king. But if you look at here, there is no absolute power with any of the organ. Rather, power is limited for each of the organ. Which means what we have done in the modern form of state, we have drawn boundaries around the organ of the state. For example, we drew a boundary around the judiciary, and we told the judiciary that judiciary, you can do everything which is inside your domain, but you cannot touch anything which falls outside your domain. Could you draw any such kind of boundary around the king, saying that, sir, you cannot do it? You cannot do that. Why? Because absolute power lies with the king. But then here, you could draw a boundary and say you will only work here. Similarly, you drew a boundary around the legislature and said, legislature, you can do everything here, but you cannot touch anything which is outside of your domain. And same is with executive, you can do everything here, but you cannot touch anything which falls outside of your boundary. Which means what we did through a constitution is that there was a government, and around the government we created a boundary, saying that government, you can do anything here, but you cannot touch anything which is outside your domain. The moment you use this word, you cannot do this, this is limiting only. What is cannot? To limit something. right? So the moment we tell the government, you cannot do this, what is it? Nothing but limited government. And who is drawing this boundary around the government? It is the constitution. This is the utility of constitution, to draw a boundary around the government. Getting it? Which means a constitution that gives rise to a government, that government is not having absolute power like the king, rather it has got limited power or limited government, which means the constitution give rise to what kind of a government? A constitutional government. Government which comes as a result of constitution is called as a constitutional government. It is formed within the boundary of the constitution. And what is the nature of this constitutional government? It is limited government. Is it having absolute power like the king? No, rather the powers are limited. 2016 prelims question. What is the nature of constitutional government? It is limited government. Getting the point? This amount of conceptual questions they are asking. For that you need to understand what is limited government and utility of constitution. लेकिन बुक से रटोगे तो कहां पहुंचोगे? Getting the point? Understand the things in the class. Anyways, now 2023 also this question came. Yes. So this is limited government. Now this limited government and the idea of an instrument called as judicial review. This is something you will read in judiciary, but to tell you, there is executive, there is legislature, there is judiciary. This judiciary is the final interpreter of the constitution, interpretation of laws. So it keeps a check on the work of executive and the legislature by an instrument called as judicial review. Review. See something which has already been done. Who has done it? The executive or the legislature has already done it. And now the judiciary is again seeing it. Seeing it for what context? If it is according to the constitution or not. Remember, judiciary as the interpreter of constitution. Getting it? This is review. Now, if you look at the idea of limited government and the idea of judicial review, they combinedly gave us one of the most important cases in India called as the Keshavananda Bharati case, 1973. This is one of the most important cases that you will read, Keshavananda Bharati case, 1973. This case gives us a doctrine called as the doctrine of basic structure. Now, what is that basic structure doctrine? Very simple. See, as the constitution was enforced in India and all the organs started working, we see there is a tug of war, a tussle between the parliament and the judiciary in the initial years of independence. At least for the first 2 decades, we see a good amount of struggle or a fight or a tug of war between the judiciary, Supreme Court on one side and legislature, parliament on the other side. And what is the struggle all about? What is the prize money? The struggle is all about who controls the aura of constitution. What is constitution? What the judiciary interprets, is that constitution? Or what the parliament can write, that is constitution, because parliament can amend constitution. So fight is going on between two, that who controls constitution? What the judges say inside the judge room, courtroom, is that the constitution? Or what the parliament amend and will write in the constitution, that is constitution. That's why you will read something in fundamental right as well as DPSP chapters that a great amount of tussle will be going on them. Starting from Shankari Prasad case to Keshavananda Bharati case in fundamental right, and starting from A.K. Gopalan case to Keshavananda Bharati case in DPSP, which means something is happening in Keshavananda Bharati case, right? So things are stopping. What is the fight all about? Who controls? Constitution. In the Keshavananda Bharati case, the Supreme Court said, okay sir, great, you can amend full constitution, because the parliament was fighting what constitution we can amend, what part of constitution we can amend, and the judiciary was not allowing the parliament to do it. So we will see that tug of war, that parliament will make an amendment to the constitution, judiciary will declare the amendment as unconstitutional. Parliament will make another amendment to declare what the judges have declared is invalid, which the court will respond by making another judgment saying that what the parliament did is unconstitutional, which the parliament will again respond by making a law saying that the judgment is wrong, and then again judiciary making a judgment saying the law is wrong. This was the tug of war going on between parliament and judiciary, which settled down in the Keshavananda Bharati case, where the Supreme Court will tell to the parliament that okay sir, you can amend the full constitution. Happy? So parliament will say yes. It has been 2 decades we are fighting for this. Great, that now we control the complete constitution. Judiciary will say, sir, but there is a small condition. What is that small condition? Sir, there are some features in this constitution which makes this constitution as the Indian constitution. If you amend those, change those provisions in the constitution, then it will no more be recognizable as Indian constitution. Sir, please don't touch those items. Apart from those items, you can change anything and everything in the constitution. We don't mind it. So parliament became happy. Great, now that I can amend all parts, there are some parts that I cannot amend. Okay, judiciary, tell us what are those parts that we cannot touch, will not touch it. Judiciary said, aaj nahi bataunga. Which means that these features, which are basic features, are not any exhaustive list. Rather, the judiciary will give them on a case-to-case basis. So depending on the case, the judiciary will mark out certain features saying that these are basic structure of the constitution. So in Keshavananda Bharati case, it gave some features. It said this parliamentary form of government, secularism, socialism, all those things. These are basic structure. After some years, let's suppose in a case in 1995, S.R. Bommai case, the court said secularism is a basic structure of constitution. So what parliament has to do? Go back home and update class notes that from today secularism is a basic structure. There cannot be any amendment on secularism. After some years, in another case, the Supreme Court said independence of judiciary is a basic structure doctrine. So what parliament has to do? Go home back and update that from today we cannot amend independence of judiciary. Getting it? This feature is called as the basic structure doctrine, which was given in the Keshavananda Bharati case. And what is happening in this case? Simply the judiciary is telling to the legislature that you cannot amend the full constitution. The moment you say cannot, what it is? Limited government. Do you understand it? If you look at the idea of limited government, it is implicitly given in the constitution. It is not explicit. See, things are either implicit or explicit. Explicit means something which is written over there, you can read it, understand it. Visibly you can see it. That is explicit. Implicit means it is not clearly written over it, but when you read it, understand it, you get to know that okay, this is inferring or indicating to what is called as an implicit feature of the constitution. Now limited government is an implicit feature which is not explicitly given anywhere. For example, just now we read basic structure doctrine. Is it anywhere written in the constitution? It is nowhere written in the constitution. But then what it is trying to do? It is limiting the power of the parliament, which is government only. So it is also one of the feature of limited government. Similarly, look at fundamental rights. What are they trying to do? Limited government. There are certain rights that the state cannot play with, cannot take away from you. Those are fundamental rights. For example, look at democracy. Can anyone rule us? No, only that political party which gets the requisite number of seats can rule us. When they rule us, can they do anything with us? No, they cannot do anything with us. The moment you write cannot, it is limited government. For example, secularism. Can state intervene into religious all kind of things? Not necessarily all. There are some things and there are certain things on which the state cannot intervene. We have got a fundamental right to practice, propagate and profess our religion. Similarly, there is something called as separation of powers, which also establishes limited government. Please give the heading Theory of Separation of Powers. Theory of Separation of Powers. Yes. What time? 2:30. What time you have a class? Where? Can't help. क्या करूं बताओ? Negotiating or asking? Okay, you go. Next class will start from theory of separation of power. But let me tell you, I am not responsible for your classes anywhere else. I have to finish the syllabus, not only syllabus, I have to teach you whatever is important for the exam. So factually, I don't care. But then don't keep a keynote of time that 1:30 means 1:30. None of the classes in Vajiram will be over at 1:30. Getting it? And if you get up, you will be compromising. So better you ask them to shift you to a batch where you have some time gap. That is your problem, not mine. What I am telling you is no one will compromise with class. None of the teachers will compromise it. You have to fix it, right? What we'll do is we'll start from theory of separation of powers in the next class itself. Now you run. All those people who have question can stay back. We'll discuss all the questions. Just 5 minutes. Let's look at the online questions. Upar karna bhaiya. No one will disturb the class while they go out. Upar. Sir, can Parliament debate about the decision that is withheld by Supreme Court? No, that is independence of judiciary, Akhila. You'll read about it. They cannot discuss the judgments of a court. Can we create pressure group and make government to make legislation against SC? Yes, you can always create pressure group to do it. The Supreme Court is not final. Okay. Double citizenship is that they are having a citizenship of the center as well as the state. How did people accept the law or constitutional laws which were borrowed from other countries, and has there been a debate undergone? See, nothing is original. Everything is accepted from one place or the other place. Emma, the point is, when you accept it, they should be applied to you. Getting the point? If they are applied to you, they are completely fine. Till the point they are not creating a friction in the society, every law is fine. Upar. Done. Take it. Thank you. So we meet in the next class and we discuss other things. Fine.